What's going on, you guys? Rudy Martindale-Campo here, and I'm going to talk about the last couple weeks because I haven't been able to post a lot because it's been super busy. So I'm going to talk over a lot of what happened the last 2 weeks and show clips here and there, but with further explanation. I just think the last weeks have been pretty hectic, but it's also pretty interesting to share with the rest of you guys. So I'm going to start out with my second weekend out driving. The day after Fort Dodge, we were in Garden City, and it was a little show, 3 obstacles, but great crowd. And I hit my first jump in 2 skills. That truck just started hurting me. That truck just stung me really bad. And I was like, what the heck? That wasn't like that yesterday. So I go out, and after I did that first hit, I just whip it into a donut. I'm like, okay, maybe I wasn't tight enough. Okay, whatever, Strap myself in. Racing's about 5 minutes later after the wheelie competition. So we do racing, and I choose the lane nearest to me, knowing that it was not as steep of a ramp. The other lane was way steeper. Corey James hit that, raced on that side. I hit that ramp, and it stung me again. So I'm like, okay, this is not cool. This wasn't like this yesterday. So I lose the race, which is, I thought, okay, cool, I'm done. I just do a sloppy job for freestyle because this truck's not feeling good. Then I forgot, we do a 3rd and 4th place race. So now I got to race my teammate Brister in Wrecking Machine. And he's there, and he's revving, and I'm waiting for him to move out the way. And he takes the lane that I wanted that was not as steep. So I was like, oh man, here I go. So I hit the side of the race lane that was a lot steeper than the side I started on. Man, this is going to hurt. So I hit it, bam, stung me again. I'm like, okay, this sucks. So nothing I can really do other than just ride it out. Don't do anything crazy the rest of the night. So I get out of the truck. I had to run all the way to the back of the pits because I also help out Dave with the robots. We did the show, did all that. It was fun. I did a Reptar gig, and I lose every time. Doesn't matter. So now I get back in the truck, get ready for freestyle, hit the first jump. Okay, yeah, I know the deal. It's not feeling well, so I do a donut, and then out of nowhere I have no front steering. So, call it quits there. I'm not gonna freestyle in a little arena without front steering. Plus, it's kind of a silver lining because I didn't want to keep going. So park it out. And then we get to Lubbock, Texas. Get to Lubbock, Texas. I have no parts to fix my Rams until probably Thursday, and we got there Monday. So I'm like, well, I gotta do something. So I'm like, well, part of the issue is the pinion angles on Hangloose were tilted so far forward that when the suspension would extend, the drive shaft would actually fall out. So we had to limit the amount of suspension travel we were able to use with the limiting straps. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, oh, I gotta fix these pinion angles. Maybe that's what it is. So I swapped around some 4 links, and let me back up. The reason why I decided to do something to begin with was the shock buckets were actually cracked on the front shock buckets. Now, I was working and pre-racing my truck on Saturday for the Garden City, so I don't believe that they were as bad as they were on Saturday at Garden City. But I believe, obviously after that big air in Dodge City, I'm sure that I did something and it probably cracked it, but it's something that I didn't spot. And if it, or it could have just been a mistake on my part. But I always check the trucks out. Literally, the shock buckets were cracked so bad, like, there's no way of missing it. So that's why I believe it really cracked itself the next day at Garden City after the show. So luckily I have spare shock buckets up in the loft of the trailer, so I put those on, and these shock bucket angles were a little different, so I couldn't put the shocks back on the way they were. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to swap around some 4 links. And on top of that, that would mess with my pinion angle. In my mind, I thought it would improve it. So I swapped around some 4 links, and it brought the pinion angle from basically both the housings doing this shape away from the cradle. Now they're doing this slightly towed in. I'm like, well, that's sweet. It's gonna work now. And now I got all suspension travel and everything. But I ran it that weekend on Saturday, the afternoon show, and looking back at it now, the T case is mounted a little high on Hangloose. So you got the T case here and you got the front pinion here. So the drive shaft is doing this magic, this magic. So the drive shaft is doing this major angle change. So you got this giant, angle, and the drive shaft on the front did not like that. So the first hit at Lubbock, Texas, I blew the front drive shaft out. So we had to take the front drive shaft out. Let's go run with just rear. So I went back to the pits, swapped it out, and just missed it for racing, but with a 4-truck field and no side act, nothing I can do. So I freestyled in it, and Craig Christensen told me that with running only rear wheel drive, I'm going to have to hit things a lot faster with more momentum. So that's what I did, and everything worked out great. I had a blast the afternoon show, and the truck was actually not hurting me. Now I'm not sure if that was because of having full use of the shocks now, because of the pinion angle, the drive shaft will not slide out. But it did not hurt me. It didn't feel nice, but the truck wasn't hurting me. And one more thing I want to mention was I had a leaky shock also before the whole event even started for the weekend. And when Craig got there Friday night, I wanted him to kind of tear apart that shock and show me what the problem was, and also show me how to kind of redo and reshim these shocks. I wanted Craig to look at the shocks and see what's on it, because I didn't want to do something that I didn't know.
And so I wrote that down on that paper. Large holes goes towards the bolt.
Okay.
Okay, now need to set the piston height on here so that you got the right amount of oil in.
Okay.
On a 26 on a national.
So Craig gave me a shim package to try out that I was going to do for the rest of the shocks after that weekend. But Saturday night show comes by and I do my thing. My truck's actually running great. Other than not running front wheel drive, truck's running great. I had fun, launched it a few times, and I'm not stinging at all. My teammate Brister goes out for, it was a wheelie competition, and he goes out and he blows the motor first hit. So I drove cautiously. I didn't want to break anything else because I thought, well, we got a lot of work to do on the road during the week. But after we talked to the boss and after they did their thinking, they called us back saying it would be easier if we were to go back home from Lubbock, Texas all the way to Ogden, Utah, where the shop is. And we went back to the shop, got there in a day and a half, and the first thing we did was we got the trucks out, we washed them, because we try not to work on the trucks while they're dirty. It's harder to find stuff that's wrong, stuff that's leaking. It's just a whole mess to work in, and you don't want that mess in the shop. So we washed the trucks, then we got Brister's truck inside. We took the motor out within probably 45 minutes. The engine spins over. Great.
So we got one positive going on today.
Yep. So we had to travel a day and a half back to the shop here in Ogden. You guys know Brister blew his motor. Not his fault. Something that was out of our hands that we couldn't really deal with, or it also blew too soon before we can really mess around with it a little more than we wanted to.
And that's the thing, is this motor hasn't been exactly running 100% ever since we put it in, so we don't know if it's something from the builder itself or whatnot, but we got to tear it apart and find out, and then got to get another one built for this weekend. Drive all the way back to Kansas.
Yep, so today we're taking the motor apart. We're going to see how the heads look and everything, and we're going to go take all the parts to Craig Christensen's shop. Paul and Craig are going to put a motor together in a day, basically. And then we took it to Craig's. Craig Christensen's shop because he flied home after the show, so his stuff's at the next event waiting for him. So he flies home during the week because he's got a second job at his mechanic shop. But Craig's shop is only 3 miles away, so Brister went to his shop, and I stayed at the shop because I still had maintenance to do on my truck. And number one was I had to replace the drive shaft, but we didn't have any spares that would work for my truck. They were shorter than what was on it. And number one is I had to also change the pinion angles the way they were, because with the T-case being mounted so high up, the angles that I was trying to achieve were not going to work for this truck, so I had to deal with the pinion angles, being towed away from the cradle. At least that's how I refer to it. But me and Paul did our measurements, and we wanted a drive shaft that would be just right so I can have the pinion angles I have now being towed out to the way they were, but being able to have full extension of the shocks without worrying about the drive shaft sliding out. But we got the drive shaft on, and then me and Paul got the shocks done really late at night one night. And once we got those shocks done, I really wanted to take the time to also touch up Hangloose. So another night I stayed at the shop till like 12:30, touching up all the paint that I can on Hangloose because the truck was a mess. It hasn't been touched up. It's been on the road nonstop, and I haven't seen it in forever since we refurbed it back in late July. So I got that all nice, and all I want to do next is paint the tires. I want to paint, not the tires. All I want to do next is paint the bead locks green on Hangloose. I think it would match it better in my opinion. I got some renderings to kind of back it up and get some opinions from the guys. So soon the bead locks will be green on Hangloose. But anyways, we got my truck ready to go. Now we have to worry about putting a motor in Brister's truck, and that took probably half a day. Then Thursday morning we left straight from Ogden all the way to Celina, Texas, and easy trip to get there. But it was 31 degrees when we got there Friday, so we also ran into Craig. He arrived at the same time we did, coincidentally, and we kind of just didn't take our trucks out. On Saturday morning, we would arrive early to get some heaters, to get some heat in the trailer so the trucks can start under some good heat. So we tired up in the cold. I'm actually used to it, so is Brister. We've both done triple threat in Monster Jam before, crewing. So we kind of got used to the situation of working in the cold. And it wasn't snowing there, by the way. It was just cold. But we did the show, and good crowd showed up for the afternoon show. And after my freestyle, I had a good run, and the truck seemed to be fine. But pulling back to the pits, I get out of the truck, and I see a whole bunch of tranny fluid. We started the truck up, and Brister and Craig Christensen eyed it, and yeah, it was just spewing out tranny fluid outside the front seal. So I had to swap a tranny. We called Paul, and I told him what we had to do to get the tranny out, because originally it's not how I roll, not to touch something that breaks, but I did not think we would have enough time in between shows to swap the tranny. I had to get the radiator out, move the T-case, unbolt the whole T-case, drop it forward, and then you got to get some equipment to chain it up, pull it out, pull them back in, bolt the T-case, put the radiator back in. Now, sounds kind of simple explaining it that way, but getting a T-case without undoing the drive shaft, and you're just kind of fiddling it up and trying to get it to line up is really difficult. but Paul knew I've done it before. You know, I knew that once I got started, like I always try to work till I get stuff done. Even if I wouldn't have ran the whole night, I would have been in the back of the pits working the whole time. And the show is over, so at least the tranny swapped, and I don't have to worry about it the rest of the week. But as pit party was getting ready for the second show, Brister said, "All right, Rudy, I'm gonna leave you alone for a couple minutes. I'm gonna park my truck out." You know, I was like, "All right, that's fine." So he's going, and he gets in his truck that's probably like 30 feet away from my truck, and he's revving and revving and revving, and I'm thinking, great, he blew a transmission too. So, and we also caught Craig Christensen's attention, so he looked over, and he did his inspection on what was going on, and he thinks that the diff is locked up. So, you know, we didn't have time to go check it. So, no matter what the situation was, either it was a tranny or a locker, it didn't matter. We had to go back and get my truck ready to at least make a 3-truck show. So we put all our efforts into Hangloose. Me and Brister and I got it all done, and we actually missed racing and 2-wheel or wheelies. And by the time the truck was ready, it was intermission. But it was probably like the last 5 minutes of intermission. So I got the truck out at the end of intermission. Then I ran to Dave, who owns Galactron and Reptar, and I ran there probably just with a minute to spare to get inside there to get ready for intermission, do the show. I did that robot whole gig, and that was that. Ran back to my truck. Had to hurry up because once the robots are done, the monsters are up next for freestyle. Get in my truck, strap in, and honestly, I was just so cold, and I was feeling so sick at the time. Like, I just wanted to fill my time and get a run going and not break anything, number one, because Brister's truck was still busted. So I didn't want to make any more damage than I needed to. So I just kind of rode around, put it around. It wasn't really the thrilling freestyle, but I got it through. And now we are in Batesville, Arkansas. And it's been raining nonstop here. I got some little clips here and there so far. But we already got the new diff in, so that's already replaced. And we tired up my truck today, but it started pouring so hard that we had to only do 1 truck. But tomorrow, Brister's truck will be all done, and tomorrow will be Thursday. And my truck has a display tomorrow, and Friday, both our trucks have displays tomorrow. But other than that, all we gotta do is tire up Brister's truck, pre-race both the trucks, do a couple displays, and just kick back and wait for the show to happen Saturday. The reason why I really wanted to talk about this and share it with you guys is because the last 2 weeks have been a real testament towards myself and the rest of the guys on the team, because these trucks that we're running are not a part of Team Throttle Monster. You know, the team didn't build them or buy them. We're just running them for Danny Torgerson. I'm not going to go into details on what the deals are with the whole situation, but nonetheless, the Hangloose truck and the chassis that has the Wrecking Machine Raptor body, those are Danny Torgerson trucks that me and Mike Brister are running. Now, Hangloose is such an old truck that it's the truck that for some reason nobody wants to drive. Well, I can understand why they don't want to drive it. It's a lot older, and it's a truck that you have to baby around a lot. But one by one, no one wanted to drive the truck, and it was kind of left to me to drive it. And I kept my mouth shut, and I just kept working as a crew guy until I got an opportunity the last 3 years. And this is my first truck that I'm driving to start out in the business as a driver. And I am totally okay with it. Some guys did not want to take the opportunity to kind of give this truck a shot. I'm giving it a shot. Yes, it is exactly what they said it would be. It's going to be a painful truck to drive, and it's going to be a truck that has its kind of bells and whistles on stuff that'll break here and there. And I had to learn that myself. You know, I'm just started a month into this. I launched the truck probably 30 feet in the air the first weekend out. So I'm kind of knowing my boundaries on this truck, and I'm kind of knowing how much gas I should give jumps. So that's something that I'm learning being with this truck. And this truck is not for me to go crazy with. It's just for me to kind of get the vibe of what it is to be a driver, how it is to strap in, how it is to get the motions of how a show goes. Practice my throttle rhythm, practice my timing in the air, just all the little things that will pay off later on after driving this raggedy truck. But this truck is honestly getting better each weekend. I'm not hurting anymore after the last show in Celina. So this truck, and being in my hands now, I feel like I'm improving it. Since I've been driving Hangloose, this truck's gone better and better, and I've gotten better and better as a driver, knowing what I should be doing with the truck. I'm just here to drive Hangloose to show that I am a reliable driver, that Mike and Paul can trust me, or anybody else watching in the future can trust me, and if they need help as a driver, I can fill in. It just comes a long way. Eventually, the goal would be to drive the nicer trucks, but that'll come with time. And the long-term goal would be to compete in the higher levels of the sport, such as Monster Jam. That's always been my goal. So, my life right now I don't think will be complete until I get to that point. But that'll come with time, because I feel that everything I've been through the last 3+ years working full-time in this sport practically, I feel like I've earned and I'm going the right route. I guess if I compare my route towards everyone else around my age, it's been a little more slower or thorough, but I look at it as more of the old school way, where you work your butt off for, I don't know, 3+ years, then you get a seat, but the seat you get is an old handy-down truck that you kind of gotta deal with and fix whenever you break and go through all that, and then you kind of work your way up eventually. And it's happened a lot back in the older days, and I kind of feel like I'm just doing it the more traditional, the more correct route, I feel, or the way it should be. So I have no complaints on what I'm doing right now, and just happy to be a part of this team, and I'm having a blast, and I'm just sharing my journey with you guys. But I made this channel for you guys to hopefully be entertained, number one, and for you guys to kind of see and hopefully get inspired if you do want to get into the sport. If you have any questions, you can always message me through my social media. I can put my info below in the description. But if you have any questions, you can always message me through social media, and I'll respond. If I ever don't respond right away, it's because I want my undivided attention. So I'll probably respond at the end of the day when I'm not working, so I can just sit down and focus on responding to all questions that you could have. And yeah, I will never ignore you guys. And also, if there's any people in this sport that probably are having a difficult time, hopefully it inspires them to kind of keep going, and all the mistakes I do, I will try and share. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm sure everybody says it, but I feel like I've done the most mistakes in this sport you could from the time frame I've been in here. But no, having mistakes is part of getting better, and you're not gonna get anywhere if you didn't make mistakes, honestly. So you're gonna make some mistakes, but when you do make your mistakes, be sure to own up to it and admit if you don't know something. Admit when you mess up, obviously, and be honest. Just don't ever lie, and don't talk before doing, I guess, is the best advice I can give you. Just kind of let your work do the talking. So with that being said, just kind of wanted to do this video and to talk about what we've been through the past couple weeks, and just kind of more of a reassurance that more content is to come, and that I'm not letting this channel die. Thanks for watching.